Hello, hello. Testing, testing. Guess we're getting right into it. Trying to figure out how all this stuff works. Hello, hello. All right, I think we're working. All right. Going to be a little bit different today. Figured I would go ahead and just kind of freestyle it a little bit more, dive deeper. Um, Going through Exodus now. Pretty interesting story so far. Hopefully, we can kind of dive a little bit deeper, really trying to understand it a bit better and see how it goes streaming from the vertical aspect ratio. So we shall see. Forgive me, I got to get my mouth moving, but let's just get after it with Exodus 17. And all the congregation of the children of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin after their journeys according to the commandments of the Lord, and pitched in Rephidim, and there was no water there for people to drink. Wherefore the people did chide with Moses, and said, Give us water that we may drink. And Moses said unto them, Why chide ye with me? Wherefore do ye tempt the Lord? And the people thirsted there for water. And the people murmured against Moses and said, Wherefore is this that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt, to kill us and our children and our cattle with thirst? And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, What shall I do unto this people, that they be almost ready to stone me? And the Lord said unto Moses, Go on. Sorry, hold on one second. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go on before the people, and take with thee of the elders of Israel and thy rod, wherewith thou smotest the river, and take it in thine hand, and go. Behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come out water out of it, that the people may drink. And Moses did so, and in the sight of the elders of Israel, and he called the name of the place Masaha and Meribah, because of the chiding of the children of Israel, and because they tempted the Lord, saying, Is the Lord among us or not? Then came Amalek and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Moses said unto Joshua, Choose us out men, and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will go stand on the top of the hill with the rod of God in mine hand. So Joshua did as Moses had said to him, and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And it came to pass, when Moses held up his hand, that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses's hands were heavy, and they took to a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon. And Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, and the one on the one side and the other on the other side, and his hands were steady until going down of the sun. And Joshua comforted Amalek and his people with the edge of his sword. And the Lord said unto Moses, write this for a memorial in a book, and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for it will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under the sun. And Moses built an altar and called the name of it Jehovah Nissi. For he said, because the Lord hath sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. Very interesting. All right. Let's see. Exodus 17 marks a massive turning point for the Israelites as they transition from a group of newly freed slaves into a dependent, organized nation. This takes place roughly 1 to 2 months after the exodus from Egypt, approximately 1446 BC or 1491 BC. The Israelites have traveled from the Red Sea through the wilderness of Sin and now have pitched camp at a place called Rephidim. For 430 years, generation after generation of Israelites lived as slaves under Egyptian rule. Because of this, they have deeply rooted slave mentality. They have never had to organize an army, find their own food, or govern themselves. Egypt provided and controlled everything. Consequently, every time they faced a resource shortage in the desert, they panic, romanticizing their time in Egypt, and blame Moses. What do they call that? They call that, I don't even know. Just before this chapter, Exodus 15 to 16, God has already performed a string of massive miracles, parting the Red Sea, turning bitter water into sweet Mara, and sending manna, bread from heaven, and quail daily to feed them. Despite seeing God's constant provision, at a moment a new crisis hits, they instantly forget his track record. This chapter splits into 2 iconic events, testing Israel's faith through different types of cries: natural resource scarcity and surprise military threat. Rephidim has no water supply, parched and terrified. Their children and livestock will die of thirst. The congregation turns aggressively on Moses. They don't just complain. The text implies that they are ready to stone him. They demand, why did you bring us up out of Egypt to kill us? Moses cries out to God, who tells him to take the elders of Israel and the famous staff, the same one he used to strike the Nile and part the Red Sea. God instructs Moses to strike a specific rock at Horeb. Moses does so, and water miraculously gushes out for the people to drink. Moses names the place Massah, which means testing, and Meribah, which means quarreling, because the people fundamentally doubted God's existence, asking, is the Lord not among us? Theological connection in Christian theology, this event is heavily emphasized. Apostle Paul writes it in 1 Corinthians 10:4, that the rock was spiritual foreshadowing of Christ, the source of living water, who was struck so humanity could live. While still camped at Rephidim, the Amalekites, nomadic raiders descended from Esau, launch a brutal, unprovoked attack on Israel. According to later context in Deuteronomy 25:17 through 18, the Amalekites used cowardly tactics. They attacked from the rear, slaughtering the stragglers, the elderly, the weary, and the children. Dang. I wonder if they were red like Esau. The Israelites' very first war. God fought the Egyptians for them at the Red Sea, but now they must learn to physically fight while relying on divine strength. Moses sends a young commander named Joshua to lead the select group of men on the battlefield. Moses, along with his brother Aaron and a man named Hur, go to the top of the hill overlooking the battle and holding the staff of God. Whenever Moses holds up his hands, the Israelites win. Whenever his hands grow tired, he lowers them and the Amalekites start winning. Aaron and Hur place a stone for him to sit on and stand on either side of him, physically holding up his arms until sunset, securing a total victory for Joshua's men. After battle, forget, Moses builds an altar and names it Yahweh Nissi, which translates to the Lord is my banner. Whoa. Israelites. Key takeaways: the danger of short-term memory. Israel showcases how easy it is for human anxiety to completely erase the memory of past miracles. The Battle of Amalek is the ultimate picture of community and leadership. Joshua fought in the trenches. Moses interceded on the hill. Aaron and Hur supported the leader when he ran out of strength. This chapter transforms Israel from passive, complaining refugees into an active, battle-tested nation that knows how to defend itself under God's banner. Ooh. Right. Crack into Exodus 18. Exodus 18, Jethro. When Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard of all that God had done for Moses and the Israel people, and for Israel his people, and that the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt, then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporath, Moses' wife, and he had sent her back and her 2 sons, of which the name of the one was Gershom, for he said, I have been an alien in this strange land. The name of the other was Eliezer, for the God of my father, he said, was mine help, and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife unto Moses into the wilderness, where he encamped at the mount of God. And when he said unto Moses, I thy father-in-law Jethro, am come unto thee, and thy wife and her 2 sons with her. And Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, and did disobedience, and kissed him. And when they asked each other of their welfare, they came into the tent. And Moses told his father-in-law that the Lord had done unto Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake all that the travail that had come upon them by the way, and how the Lord delivered them. And Jethro rejoiced for all the goodness which the Lord had done to Israel, whom he had delivered out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Jethro said, Blessed be the Lord, who hath delivered us out from the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of the Pharaoh, who hath delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods. For in the thing wherein they deal proudly, he was above them. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering and sacrifices to God. And Aaron came, and all the elders of Israel, to eat bread with Moses, his father-in-law, before God. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood by Moses from the morning unto the evening. And when Moses' father-in-law saw that he did to the people, he saw all that he did to the people, he said, What is this thing that thou doest to the people? Why sittest thou thyself alone, and all the people stand before thee? from morning unto even. And Moses said unto his father in law, because the people come unto me to inquire of God, when they have the matter, they come unto me, and I judge between one another. And I do not make them known that the statuses of God and his law. And I do make them know the statuses of God and his law. And Moses' father-in-law said unto him, the thing that thou doest is not good. Thou wilt surely wear away both thou and this people that is with thee. For this thing is too heavy for thee. Thou art not able to perform it thyself alone. Hearken now unto my voice. I will give thee counsel, and God shall be with thee. Be thou for the people of Godward, that thou mayest bring the cause unto God. Thou shalt teach them ordinances of laws, and thou shew them the way wherein they must walk, and the work that they must do. Moreover, thou shalt provide out of the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands, and rulers of hundreds, and rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And let them judge the people at all seasons. And it shall be that every great matter they shall bring unto thee, but every small matter they shall judge. So shall it be easier for thyself, and they shall bear the burden with thee. If thou shalt do this thing, and God command thee so, then thou shalt be able to endure, and all this people shall also go in the place in peace. So Moses hearkened unto the voice of his father-in-law, and did all that he had said. And Moses chose able men out of Israel, and made them heads over the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And they judged the people at all season, the hard causes they brought unto Moses, but every small matter they judged themselves. And Moses let his father-in-law depart, and when he went his way into his own land. That's kind of weird. I don't know. I feel like Moses' father-in-law was kind of power hungry. Hmm. Hmm. The two major themes of Exodus. This chapter is divided cleanly into two halves: a spiritual celebration of God's victory and a practical lesson in organizational scaling. Jethro hears about the spectacular ways Yahweh rescues Israel from Egypt, the plagues, the Red Sea parting, the water from the rock, and the travels to the Israeli desert camps to bring Moses' wife and son back to him. Moses greets his father-in-law with deep cultural respect, bowing and kissing him, and brings him into his tent. Moses gives Jethro a detailed recap video of everything God did to Pharaoh, and God delivered them through every hardship. Jethro, a priest of a different Midianite deity, is completely blown away. He declares, now I know that Yahweh is greater than all gods. Jethro offers sacrifices and burnt offerings directly to Yahweh, and Aaron, the elders of the Israelites of Israel, join him for a massive sacrificial meal. The next day, Jethro watches Moses' daily routine. Moses sits as a sole judge for the entire population, estimated to be over 2 million people, from sunrise to sunset. Individuals stand in massive lines waiting for Moses to settle their micro disputes, personal arguments, and legal issues. Jethro pulls Moses aside and essentially says, "What are you doing? What you are doing is not good. You're going to completely wear yourself out, and you are going to wear the people out too. This job is too heavy for one person." Jethro gives Moses a masterclass in management and corporate delegation. Moses should focus on being the people's representative before God, teaching them the decrees, laws, and macro strategy of how to live. Moses needs to find trustworthy, God-fearing men who hate dishonest gain, divide the population into managed groups, and assign leaders over the thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Let these lower level judges handle all simple, everyday cases, and only the absolute most difficult, complex, high level boss level cases should be brought to Moses. Basically, this is the invention of mid level managers. Moses humbles himself, listens to his father in law, and implements the structural system. With a functional government finally in place, Jethro returns home to his own land. I guess that's good that Jethro left. It did seem like he was trying to grab for power. Kind of highlights the danger of the do-it-myself mentality. Moses was a chosen prophet who could part the seas, but he was still failing at basic human time management. It highlights that even the most gifted leaders will experience severe burnout without a team. Moses is the most powerful man in the camp, yet when his father-in-law calls his management style terrible, Moses doesn't pull rank. He listens, adapts, and learns. It wasn't an Israelite or an angel who saved Israel from administrative collapse. It was a foreign Midianite priest looking at the situation with a fresh, objective eye. Interesting. Let me just set this up a little bit better. All right, let's crack into Exodus 19 at Mount Sinai. In the third month, when the children of Israel gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai. So 3 months in, they're in the wilderness of Sinai. For they will depart for Rephidim, and where come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness, and there Israelites camped before the mount. And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shall thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on the eagle's wings, and brought you out unto myself. Now, therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto a kingdom of priests and and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord had commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, All that the Lord hath spoken we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Moses, Lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that he may hear where I speak with thee, and believe thee forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go unto the people, and sanctify them to the day and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes, and be ready against the third day. For the third day the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai, and thou shalt set boundaries unto the people round about, saying, Take heed to yourself that ye go not up into the mount, or touch the border of it. Whatsoever toucheth the mount shall be surely put to death, and there shall not an hand touch it, but he shall surely be stoned and shot through. Whether it be beast or man, it shall not live. When the trumpet soundeth long, they shall come up to the mound. And Moses went down from the mound unto the people, and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said unto the people, Be ready against the third day, come not at your wives. And it came to pass. What does that even mean? And Moses went down from the mount unto the people, and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes, assuming they washed the sin away from their bodies. And he said unto the people, Be ready against the third day, come not at your wives. And it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and thick cloud upon the mound, and the voice of the trumpet exceedingly loud, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled. And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at their nether part of the mound, and the Mount Sinai at the mount, and Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly. And when the voice of the trumpet sounded, and waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and God answered him by a voice, and the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai. And the top of the mount, on the top of the mount, and the Lord called Moses up onto the top of the mount, and Moses went up. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go down, charge the people, lest they break through unto the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish. And let the priests also, which come near to the Lord, sanctify themselves, lest the Lord break forth upon them. And Moses said unto the Lord, The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for thou chargest us, saying, Set bounds about the mount, and sanctify it. And the Lord said unto him, Away, get thee down, and thou shalt come up, thou and Aaron with thee. And let not the priests and the people break through to come up unto the Lord, lest he break forth upon them. So Moses went down unto the people, and spake unto them. Exodus 19 is the theological core of the entire Old Testament. Everything you have read up to this point The rescue from the brick pits, the splitting of the Red Sea, the daily delivery of manna was simply a logistical prologue to get Israel to this exact geographical coordinate, Mount Sinai. That's crazy. The context is a massive historical milestone. It is exactly 3 months to the day since Israel fled Egypt, and they have arrived at the base of Mount Sinai, the very mountain where God first spoke to Moses out of the burning bush in chapter 3. What? This is exactly 3 months to the day since Israel fled Egypt, and they finally arrive at the base of Mount Sinai, which is in Horeb, the very mountain where God first spoke to Moses out of the burning bush. That was before Moses. What? That's crazy. I forget when the burning bush actually happened. That must have been when he fled from Egypt. In this chapter, the relationship between God and Israel shifts from a rescue operation to a formal covenant marriage. God lays out the terms in their national identity. Demand a multi-day ritual purification, and then break into the physical world with terrifying apocalyptic weight. Moses climbs up the rocky slopes of Sinai to meet with God. God hands him a beautiful high-stakes proposal to pitch to the millions of refugees camping down in the valley. God tells Moses to remind the people how he carried them out of slavery on the eagle's wings to bring them to himself. Then he promises that if they actively listen to his voice and guard his covenant, that they will transform into 3 distinct things that form the bedrock of Jewish identity. The 3 identity cores: a peculiar treasure. Hebrew, segula, means a king's private, priceless royal vault. Out of all the nations on earth, Israel is claimed as God's personal luxury property. Every single citizen within the borders would have direct mediatorial access to God, serving as a living bridge to reveal the Creator to the rest of the pagan world. A population completely set apart, clean, and physically distinct in morality, justice, and culture for everyone. This is crazy. Just trying to fully grasp this. So he was setting apart his people to have direct contact and mediatorial access to God, serving as a living bridge to reveal the Creator to the rest of the pagan world. What? A population completely set apart, clean, and physically distinct in morality, justice, and culture from everyone else. Moses climbs down the mountain, assembles his elders, and delivers the term of the contract. Verse 8 records the immediate unified response of the population. All that the Lord hath spoken, we will do. Moses climbs back up the mountain to log the signature on the contract. To log their signature on the contract. Now that the contract is verbally accepted, God announces that he is going to come down in a thick cloud so the entire nation can hear him speak face to face with Moses. What? But because God is pure, uncreated light and holiness, and human beings are broken, compromised, extreme safety boundaries must be established. God orders the mandatory 3-day sanctification lockdown. Every individual must wash their clothes and abstain from marital relations to prepare their minds and bodies for the encounter. That must have been what they were talking about when they said, don't come on your wife. Come not at your wives. And he said unto his people, be ready against the third days. Come not at your wives. And he was literally talking about individuals must wash their clothes and abstain from marital relationships to prepare their minds and bodies for the encounter. Wow, this is like a biblical confirmation that like abstaining from marital relationship prepares the minds and bodies for encountering the divine. This is just kind of crazy. Cool, like in a cool way. Moses is commanded to draw a physical boundary line completely wrapping around the base of the mountain. God drops a severe legal warning in verse 12. Whoever so toucheth the mount shall be surely put to death. If a human or a stray animal steps even one hoof over the boundary line, they cannot be touched. They cannot be touched by human hands. They must be sniped from a distance with arrows or stones. So if they cross that boundary, you got to shoot them. That's crazy. Nuts. On the morning of the third day, the mountain completely erupts into a terrifying sensory eco-apocalypse. Towering, jet black storm clouds blanket the peak, ripped apart by constant, blinding flashes of lightning and deafening thunder. A supernatural metallic trumpet blast begins to wail out of the cloud, growing louder and louder until the ground shakes. The entire Mount Sinai becomes completely engulfed in smoke because the Lord descended upon it in fire. The smoke billows up like a massive industrial furnace, and the whole mountain quakes violently. Moses leads the millions of trembling, terrified refugees out of their tents and lines them up right against the edge of the death perimeter. Moses speaks, and God answers him with a booming, audible voice. God calls Moses to the absolute peak of the roaring, flaming mountain. The moment Moses gets to the top, God looks at him and says, Moses, run right back down to the mountain and warn the priests and the people one more time. And they are getting too curious, and they want to break past the boundary line to catch a glimpse of me. If they do, my holiness will violently break forth and slaughter them. That's crazy. My holiness will violently break forth and slaughter them. You would have to think like, why would you allow that to happen? But maybe his holiness is just so great that they couldn't help but be to violently slaughter them. Moses tries to argue, Lord, they can't come up. I already drew the boundary lines. God cuts him off. Go down immediately. Bring Aaron back up with you. But don't let anyone else cross the line. Moses sprints back down to enforce the perimeter. I just like how Aaron is just along for this ride. It's got to be like a wild experience for him. It's like God made Moses a god unto Pharaoh, and Aaron was his prophet. So just to have him just along for the ride, is just pretty cool. And now he gets to come up to Mount Sinai, which is awesome too. This is crazy. Exodus 19 introduces a side of God that the slaves had never witnessed. In Egypt, God was their protective shield against their taskmaster. At Sinai, they discover that God's raw presence is beautiful, but inherently dangerous to a broken humanity. Think of it like looking at the sun. The sun provides life, light, and warmth. But if you launch yourself directly into the sun, you're instantly incinerated. Holiness is not mean. Holiness is not mean. It is simply too pure for corruption to survive in its presence. The boundary lines that wash the clothes, the boundary lines and the washed clothes were a vivid demonstration that unholy humanity cannot casually saunter into the presence of a holy God without a mediator. Notice the structural flow of communication. God talks to Moses. Moses talks to the people talk to Moses, and Moses takes it back to God. This chapter firmly cements Moses in the office of the mediator. The unique bridgeman who stands in the gap between the blazing fire of God and the fragile weakness of humanity. This sets up the ultimate New Testament framework in 1 Timothy 2, verse 5, which explicitly states that just as Moses stood between Sinai and Israel, there is now one mediator between God and man, and that the man Jesus Christ. Crazy. That is crazy. All right. Exodus 20. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. That sounds like he's allowing other gods as long as they're below him. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. That's crazy. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. Okay, maybe it's just graven images, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above. Jeez, is that like not good for Orthodox icons? I don't know. Anyways, thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. What? Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generations of them that hate me, and shewing mercy unto thousands of them that love me, and keep my commandments, Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Oh my gosh, are we about to break into the 10 Commandments? Wow. I hope I didn't just take his name in vain. And shewing mercy unto thousands of them that love me. Keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservants, nor thy maidservants, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in the 6th day Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpets and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. And they said unto Moses, Speak thou with us, and we will hear, but let not God speak with us, lest we die. And Moses said unto the people, Fear not, for God is coming to prove you, and that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not. And the people stood afar off, and Moses drew near unto the thick darkness where God was. The Book of the Covenant, Worship and Justice. And the Lord said unto Moses, thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, Ye have seen that I have taken with you from heaven. Ye have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. Ye shall not make with me gods of silver, neither shall ye make unto gods of gold. An altar of earth thou shalt make unto me, and shall sacrifice thereon thy burnt offerings, and thy peace offerings, thy sheep, thine oxen. In all places where I recorded my name, I will come unto thee, and I will bless thee. And if thou wilt make an altar of stone, thou shalt not build it of hew stone. For if thou lift up thy tool upon it, thou hast polluted it. Neither shall thou go upon the steps unto mine altar, that thy nakedness be not discovered thereon. Crazy. Exodus 20 is one of the most culturally and legally transformative chapters in human history. The context is terrifying. Smoke-engulfed peak of Mount Sinai from chapter 19. The mountain is shaking, lightning is flashing, the supernatural trumpet blasting, blast is ringing out. Moses is standing at the base of the mountain with millions of trembling, terrified former slaves. Suddenly, the trumpet blast cuts out. Out of the roaring fire and jet black storm clouds, the audible, thundering voice of God breaks the silence, speaking directly to the ears of every man, woman, and child in the camp. He delivers the foundational constitutional framework for their new society. The 10 Commandments, historically known as the Decalogue, meaning 10 words. Here is the valuable context behind the theological breakdown. Before God drops a single rule, legal demand, or restriction, he establishes the absolute baseline of the relationship in verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. The sequence is everything. God does not say, obey these 10 commandments perfectly. If your score is high enough, I will rescue you out from Egypt. He says, I have already rescued you by pure grace. You are already completely free. Therefore, because you are mine, this is how you are to live. The commandments are not a ladder to earn salvation. They are a response to salvation that has already been handed to them. The Decalogue splits cleanly into 2 distinct tables. The first 4 commandments govern Israel's vertical relationship with God, while the remaining 6 govern their horizontal relationship with humanity. Table 1, the relationship with God. Commandment 1, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Total, exclusive, monogamous loyalty to Yahweh. He will not share the throne with any Egyptian or Canaanite deities. That's crazy. It sounds more like gods are allowed as long as they're below him. Commandment 2, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images. Israel is completely forbidden from reducing the uncreated creator into a physical statue, animal carving, or idol. God cannot be localized or manipulated by human art. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. This is far deeper than just avoiding profanity. It means do not carry or represent my holy name in an empty, hypocritical, or manipulative way. Since they represent God to the world, misrepresenting him brings a severe penalty. Commandment 4, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days of labor, followed by 1 mandatory day of total rest, mimicking the rhythm of creation. Slaves have no Sabbath, free citizens do. What? Commandment 5, honor thy father and thy mother. The foundational building block of societal stability is the authority, respect, and preservation of the family unit. I can agree with that. Thou shalt not kill. More accurately translated from Hebrew as thou shalt not murder. The illegal, premeditated taking of an innocent human life. Every human carries the divine image. Destroying them is an attack on God. I wonder if that makes room for like killing in response or as punishment decided by humans. That's crazy. Commandment 7, thou shalt not commit adultery. Total protection of the marriage covenant and family lineage. Commandment 8, thou shalt not steal. Protection of personal property rights. A society built on theft collapses. Commandment 9, thou shalt not bear false witness. Absolute integrity in the legal and social framework. Perjury and malice gossip destroys justice. And commandment 10, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, wife, manservant, maidservant, ox, ass, or anything in thy neighbor's. This is the most brilliant, radical commandment of all because it targets the internal heart condition, not an external action. It forbids the toxic, burning desire to possess your neighbor's house, spouse, or assets. Every other sin, theft, murder, or adultery, starts right here in the hidden chamber of covetousness. That's crazy. Verses 18 through 21. The voice of God stops. The sensory overload of the thunder of lightning and the smoking mountain is so intense that the entire population physically panics. They break rank, sprint away from the mountain base, and stand trembling in the distance. They turn to Moses, hyperventilating and begging him to step into the gaps as the emergency filter. Speak thou with us, and we will hear, but not let God speak with us, lest we die. Moses looks at the terrified crowd and explains the purpose of the awe. Fear not, for God is come to prove and test you, that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not. God wanted them to feel the literal weight of his holiness so that they would understand that violating his moral law isn't a casual mistake. It's a collision with the raw power that rules the cosmos. The people stay back in the safety of the dark distance, while Moses bravely turns around and walks right back into the thick darkness where God was. The chapter wraps with a brief, highly specific legal addendum regarding how they are to build worship altars out in the desert. God commands that if they make an altar of stone, it must be built using rough, unhewn, natural desert rocks. For if thou lift up thy tool upon it, thou hast polluted it. God is sending a blunt message about human religion. You cannot decorate, civilize, or improve upon the baseline architecture of worship with your own human craftsmanship or ego. True worship is simple, raw, and entirely focused on the sacrifice, not artistic skill of the person building an altar. Wow. Jeez. An altar of earth thou shalt make unto me, and shall sacrifice thereon thy burnt offerings and thy peace offerings, thy sheep, thine oxen, in all places where I record my name, and I will come up unto thee, and I will bless thee. Crazy. All right, let's break into Exodus 21. Now, these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. If thou buy an Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master have given him a wife, and she have borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's. What? And he shall go out by himself. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go free, then his master shall bring him unto the judges. He shall also bring him to the door, and unto the door post, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. And if the man sells his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the maidservants do. If she pleases not her master, who hath betrothed her to himself, then shall he let her be redeemed to flee with her. And if he have betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. And if he do not these three unto her, then she shall go out free without money. He has smiteth a man so that he die, shall be surely put. He that smiteth a man so that he die shall surely be put to death. And if a man lie not in wait, but God deliver him into his hand, then I will appoint thee a place whither he shall flee. But if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, thou shalt take him from mine altar, that he may die. And he that smiteth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. And he that stealeth a man and stealeth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. And he that curseth the father or his mother shall surely be put to death. And if men strive together, and one smite another with a stone or with his fist, and he not die, but keepeth his bed, if he rise again and walk abroad upon his staff, then shall he that smote him be quit. Only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. And if a man smite his servant or his maid with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall surely be punished. Notwithstanding, if he continued a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his money. If men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall surely be punished, according as the woman's husband will lay upon him. And he shall pay as the judge determines. And if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give a life for a life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. And if a man smite the eye of his servant, or the eye of his maid, that it perish, he shall let him go free for his eye's sake. And if he smite out his manservant's tooth, or his maidservant's tooth, he shall let him go free for his tooth's sake. For if an ox gore a man or a woman, that they die, then the ox shall surely be stoned, and his flesh shall not be eaten. But the owner of the ox shall be quit. And if the ox were wont to push his thorn in past time, and it hath been testified to his owner, and hath not kept him in, but that he hath killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, but his owner shall be put to death. If there be laid on him a sum of money, then he shall give for the ransom of his life whatsoever is laid upon him. Whether he have gored a son or have gored a daughter, according to his judgment shall it be done unto him. If the ox shall push a manservant or a maidservant, he shall give unto their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. What? If an ox shall push a manservant, he should be stoned? If a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and an ox or an ass fall therein, the owner of the pit shall make it good, and give money unto the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his. And if one man's ox hurts another, that he may die, then they shall sell the live ox and divide the money of it. And the dead ox also they shall divide. Or if it be known that the ox hath used to push in time past, and his owner hath not keep him in, he shall surely pay ox for ox, and the dead shall be his own. What? So this is called the mishpatim, the Hebrew word for judgments or ordinances. In Exodus 21, the narrative transitions directly from the high-level moral ideals of the Ten Commandments into a gritty, practical civil code. Moses is still in the thick darkness of Mount Sinai, and God begins to lay down the case laws that the local elders will use to run daily courtroom justice within the camp. What? So this is when they develop the camp, and the Ark of the Covenant is produced later on. I don't know. I haven't read this, so I'm just trying to piece together what I currently know. But that's crazy that God was like developing all of this, worried about like when ox were pushing people. I don't even know. Let's get some more context. This chapter can feel incredibly jarring because it dives straight into topics like servitude, physical assaults, and animal negligence. But when you look at the ancient historical context, these laws were actually a radical, humanizing leap forward that protected the vulnerable and curbed the unchecked violence in the ancient world. The very first civil law God gives in a newly freed nation of slaves is paradoxically a law regulating servitude. The historical context. It's critical to distinguish in an ancient Near Eastern servitude from It is critical to distinguish ancient Near Eastern servitude from the horrific chattel slavery in modern history. In the ancient desert, there were no bankruptcy courts, welfare checks, or banking systems. If a man fell into extreme poverty, experienced a catastrophic crop failure, or stole property he couldn't pay back, he would legally sell his own labor to another neighbor for a fixed window to clear his debts. It was a debt-free relief system and survival mechanism. God established a strict, non-negotiable boundary line to ensure this never turned into a permanent oppression. A Hebrew servant could only labor for 6 years. On the 7th year, he was legally mandated to walk away completely free without paying a single penny of debt. However, if a servant grew to deeply love his master, his wife, and his children, and explicitly refused to leave on the 7th year, the law provided a highly symbolic ritual to alter his legal status. The public declaration. Year 7, the servant must publicly state before his community, I love my master, my wife, my children. I will not go free. At the court, the master must bring the servant before the local judges to verify that his chronicle is completely voluntary and free of coercion. The boundary line. The master leads the servant to the front door or doorpost of the master's house, the legal boundary line of the home. The permanent seal. The master takes an awl, a sharp metal puncturing tool, and bores it clean through the servant's earlobe into the wood of the door. This piercing was a permanent physical scar that broadcasts to the entire community that this man was no longer a forcible debtor. He is a voluntary bond slave, bound by love and absolute devotion to his master forever. The text moves into criminal law, drawing a sophisticated legal line between premeditated murder and accidental manslaughter. If a man intentionally ambushes and kills his neighbor, he faces a mandatory death sentence, even if the killer sprints to God's holy worship altar to grab onto its stone horns for sanctuary. Even if a killer sprints to God's holy worship altar to grab onto its stone horns for sanctuary, the police are ordered to rip him away from the altar and execute him. If a death is completely accidental, God promises to appoint a place whither he shall flee, setting up future cities of refuge where a person could safely live protected from retaliatory blood feuds. The death penalty for human trafficking in verse 16, the law drops a massive hammer on kidnapping. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. This single verse completely dismantles any biblical justification for historical chattel slavery. Under the law of Sinai, the forced kidnapping and trafficking of a human being was a capital crime. Wow. Verse 23 through 25. The Lex Talionis. Verse 23 through 25 drops a famous legal formula. Life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. Modern cultures view an eye for an eye as an excuse for brutal medieval vengeance. In the ancient world, it was the exact opposite. It was a law of strict restraint. In those days, if a man accidentally knocked out a nobleman's tooth in a street fight, the noble tribal clan would march over and slaughter the man's entire village in vengeance. God steps in and says, no punishment must strictly fit the crime. No, the punishment must strictly fit the crime. It restricts judges from over-punishing. It completely outlawed personal blood feuds. Furthermore, archaeological records show that in standard Hebrew practice, this was almost always executed as a financial scale for civil damages, calculating the exact monetary value of a lost eye or tooth and forcing the offender to pay the victim for the lost wages and medical care. The chapter wraps up with gritty, everyday agricultural liability cases. The prime example used is a goring ox. If an ox snaps and kills a human for the very first time, the owner is not liable, but the animal must be stoned to death and its meat thrown out. If an ox has a documented history of aggression, the local community had officially warned the owner neglectfully failed to lock it up. If that ox kills someone, the owner is charged with criminal neglect and faces the death penalty or a massive life-altering financial ransom payout. Unlike the surrounding contemporary laws, like the famous Code of Hammurabi, which placed property value above human life, the laws of Exodus repeatedly broadcast that human beings carrying the divine image carry an unmeasurable worth that outrank livestock, money, or social status. Crazy. All right. Let's go ahead and break into Exodus. Exodus 22. If a man shall steal an ox or a sheep and kill it or sell it, he shall restore 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. If a thief be found breaking up and be smitten, that he die, there shall no blood be shed for him. If the sun be risen upon him, there shall be blood shed for him, for he should make full restitution. If he have nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. If the theft be certainly found in his hand alive, whether it be oxen or ass or sheep, he shall restore double. If a man shall cause a field or vineyard to be eaten, and shall put in his beast, and shall feed in another man's field, of the beast of his own flesh and of the beast of his own vineyard shall he make restitution. If fire break out and catch thorns, so that the stacks of corns or the standing corn or the field be consumed therewith, he that kindled the fire shall surely make restitution. If a man shall deliver unto his neighbor money or stuff to keep, and it be stolen out of the man's house, if the thief be found, let him pay double. If the thief be not found, then the master of his house shall be brought unto the judges, to see whether he have put his hand unto his neighbor's goods. For all the manners of trespass, whether it be for ox, for ass, for sheep, for raiment, or for any manner of lost thing, which another challengeth to be his, the cause of both parties shall come before the judges, and whom the judges shall condemn, he shall pay double unto his neighbor. If a man shall deliver unto his neighbor an ass for an ox or a sheep or any beast to keep, and it die, or be hurt, or driven away, no man seeing it, then shall an oath of the Lord be between them, that he hath not put his hand unto his neighbor's goods, and the owner of the sheep shall accept thereof, and he shall not make it good. And if it be stolen from him, he shall make a restitution unto the owner thereof. If it be torn in pieces, then let him bring it for witness, and he shall not make good that which was torn. And if a man borrow aught from his neighbor, and it be hurt or die, the owner therefore being not with it, he shall surely make it good. But if the owner thereof being with it, he shall not make it good. If it be an hired thing, it came for his hire. And if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. If her father utterly refuse to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Whosoever lieth with a beast shall surely be put to death. He that sacrifice unto any god, save unto the Lord only, he shall utterly be destroyed. He that sacrificeth unto any god, save unto the Lord only, he shall be utterly destroyed. Thou shalt neither vex a stranger nor oppress him, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. Ye shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. If thou afflict them in any wise, they cry at all unto me, I will surely hear their cry, and my wrath shall wax hot, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless. If thou lend money to any people that is poor by thee, thou shalt not be to him as a usurer, neither shalt thou lay upon him usury. If thou at all take thy neighbor's raiment to pledge, thou shalt deliver it unto him by that the sun goeth down, for that is his covering only. It is his raiment for his skin, wherein shall he sleep? And it shall come to pass when he crieth unto me that I will hear, for I am gracious. Thou shalt not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of thy people. Thou shalt not delay to offer the first of thy ripe fruits and of thy liquors. The firstborn of thy sons shall give unto me. Likewise, thou shalt do with thine oxen and with thy sheep. 7 days it shall be with his dam. On the 8th day thou shalt giveth it me, and ye shall be holy men unto me. Neither shall ye eat any flesh that is torn of beasts in the field. Ye shall cast it to the dogs. For that is his covering only. It is his raiment for skin. Wherein shall he sleep? It shall come to pass when he crieth unto me that I will hear, for I am gracious. Thou shalt not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of thy people. Thou shalt not delay to offer. Okay. Interesting. Sorry. Exodus 22 continues the granular case-by-case civil code that God delivers to Moses in the dark mountains of Sinai. As you read, you will notice the chapter pivots between two major themes: financial restitution for property claims and moral boundaries to protect the vulnerable. In ancient Near East, laws typically favored the rich, the powerful, and the landowners. Exodus 22 completely flips this paradigm, establishing an economic system rooted in deep personal accountability and a social safety net that fiercely guards the marginalized. The chapter opens up with a highly sophisticated framework for property theft, agricultural negligence, and financial liability. Under the laws of Sinai, there were no state penitentiaries or long-term prison systems. If a thief stole a man's livelihood, locking the thief in a cage on the taxpayer's dime didn't fix the victim's ruined businesses. Instead, the law mandates a strict system of punitive financial restitution. If the thief steals an ox and slaughters it or sells it, he must pay back 5 oxen for the 1 ox. If he steals a sheep, he must pay back 4 sheep. Why the difference for 5-fold and full-fold restitution? An ox was a highly valuable capital asset used to plow fields and drive agriculture. Killing a man's ox actually paralyzed his entire farming infrastructure. A sheep was a consumer asset used for wool or meat. The laws scale the victim's punishment to fit the long-term economic damage inflicted onto the victim. If the thief is caught red-handed and the animal is still alive in his possession, he simply pays back double, 2 for 1. If the thief has completely spent his assets and cannot pay the restitution, he is legally forced to sell his labor to clear the debt. Exactly like the 6-year servant tracking system we saw in chapter 21. The law draws a brilliant boundary line regarding self-defense in a burglary. If a thief breaks into a home in the pitch black of night and the homeowner strikes and kills him, the owner is completely clear of charges. In the dark, you cannot determine if the intruder has a violent intent to murder your family. If the sun has risen and the homeowner kills the burglar, the homeowner is guilty of manslaughter. In the light of day, you cannot see that the thief is just there to steal property, not to take life. Lethal force is no longer legally justified. Human life outranks property. If a farmer lets his livestock wander into his neighbor's vineyard and graze it clean, he must pay back the damages out of the absolute harvest of his own field. Similarly, if a man lights a fire on his own property to clear brush, and that spark jumps a ditch and burns down his neighbor's standing stack of grain, the person who ignited the fire is legally liable to pay the entire ruined crop. Convenience never excuses negligence. The text shifts sharply from civil tort laws to an absolute moral spiritual boundary designed to prevent Israel from sliding back into pagan depravities of Egypt. If a man seduces an unengaged virgin, he must pay the traditional dowry price and marry her. If a father flatly refuses the marriage, the man must still pay full financial dowry to ensure the woman is not left economically vulnerable in an ancient patriarchal society. Verses 18 through 19, sorcery and occult mediumship, which use manipulation and demonic pacts to control reality, face a mandatory death sentence, as did the horrific practice of bestiality. Dang, so no magic sorcerers like in Egypt. That's crazy that the magicians of Egypt were able to produce the same type of miracles that Moses was producing up until he turned the sand into like lice. But like, that's crazy that power was just wielded by the magicians of Egypt. They must have been worshiping Egyptian gods at that time. So like, it's crazy that the Egyptian gods had so much power, secondary to the almighty God that we're currently dealing with in Exodus 20. Just crazy. Verse 20, sacrificing to any foreign deity within the borders of Israel was viewed as high treason against the state and faced immediately execution. This ethical heartbeat of the chapter, God single-handedly anchors the social safety net of the new nation by demanding radical protection for 3 specific groups who had zero political or legal power in the ancient world: the immigrant, the widow, and the orphan. God drops a powerful emotional reminder in verse 21. Thou shalt neither vex a stranger nor oppress him, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. God warns the entire nation that if anyone exploits a defensive widow or a fatherless child, then they cry out to heaven. And they cry out to heaven. God will bypass the local court system and intervene directly as a vigilante judge. He delivers a bone-chilling ultimatum in verse 24. If you mistreat them, he will unleash military fury against you, leaving your own wives as widows, and your own children as orphans. If a Hebrew citizen falls into absolute poverty and needs emergency loan to buy bread, the law completely outlaws predatory lending practice. No usury or interest. You are completely forbidden from charging a single cent of interest to a poor brother. Loans to the destitute must be acts of relief, not opportunities for corporate profit. I wish that were the case today. If you take a poor man's outer cloak as legal pledge or collateral for loan, you are legally mandated to return it to him before the sun goes down. In the ancient desert, that heavy outer cloak was a man's only blanket to survive the freezing wilderness nights. If you kept his coat past dark and he shivers and cries out to me in his cold tent, I will hear him, for I am gracious. God cares about the body temperature of a broken debtor. Exodus 22 provides that the God of Israel is not obsessed with ritual temporal sacrifices. He is hyper obsessed with societal justice and structural empathy. He reminds a nation of former immigrants that their historical trauma under Pharaoh must never be weaponized against the next generation of outsiders. The chapter closes by demanding that Israel must never delay in handing over their first fruits for their liquor process, their grain harvests, and their firstborn sons. The chapter closes by demanding that Israel must never delay in handing over their first fruits for their liquor process, their grain harvests, and their firstborn sons. By demanding the first and the best of their revenue before they even know how the rest of the harvest will turn out, God was teaching them that the daily spiritual practice of faith, it was a physical reminder that everything is owned. Everything. It is a physical reminder that everything they owned belonged to the provider who sustained them in the desert sand. That's crazy. The God of Israel isn't obsessed with ritual sacrifice, but he is demanding them. Okay. All right. So when God says, the firstborn of thy sons shall thou give unto me, he's repeating a legal claim, not an altar execution order. Remember the night of Passover. God spared the Hebrew firstborn from the 10th plague using the blood of a substitute lamb. Because he saved them, he claimed legal ownership of them. But God explicitly laid down a substitution clause to ensure a human child was never harmed. Let's look at the operational law of Exodus 13:13. And every firstborn of an ass shall and every firstborn of an ass thou shalt redeem with a lamb, and the firstborn of man among thy children shall thou redeem. If this were a pagan sacrifice, you would physically kill the child on the altar to appease a bloodthirsty nature god. Yahweh, the human child is never killed. Instead, the father pays a financial ransom, either 5 shekels or sacrifice a lamb in the child's place. When a Hebrew father gave his son to God, it meant 2 things. He paid the redemption price to the priests, and that son's life was symbolically dedicated to serving God's purpose instead of just building his personal wealth. Crazy. Exodus 23. Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thine hands with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. Neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment. Neither shall thou continuance a poor man in his cause. If thou meet thine enemy's ox or his ass going astray, thou shalt surely bring it back to him again. If thou see an ass of him that hateth thee lying under his burden, and wouldest forbear to help him, thou shalt surely help with him. Thou shalt not wrestle judgments of thy poor in his cause. Keep thee far from a false matter, and the innocent and righteous slay thou not. For I will not justify the wicked, and thou shalt take no gift, for the gift blindeth the wise, and purveyeth the word of the righteous. And thou shalt not oppress a stranger, for ye know the heart of a stranger, seeing ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. And 6 years thou shalt sow the land, and shall gather in the fruits thereof. But the 7th year thou shalt let it rest and lie still, that the poor of thy people may eat, and what they leave the breasts of the field shall eat. In like manner thou shalt deal with thy vineyard and with thy olive yard. 6 days shall thy do thy work, and on the 7th day thou shalt rest, that thine oxen and thine ass may rest, and the son of thy handmaid and the stranger may be refreshed. And in all the things that I have said unto you, be circumspect, that I make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of thy mouth. 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in the year. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I command thee. In the time appointed of the month of Abib, For in thou come out of Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. And the feast of the harvest, and the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors out of thy field. 3 times in the year all the males shall appear before the Lord God. Thou shalt not offer the blood sacrifice. Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread. Neither shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until the morning. What? Hold up. All right. Sorry. Thou shalt not offer blood of the sacrifice of leavened bread, neither shall the fat of the sacrifice remain until morning. The first of the first fruits of thy land shall thou bring into the house of the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not seeth a kid in his mother's milk. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and of his voice, provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thine enemies, and an adversary unto thy adversaries. For mine angel shall go before thee, and bring thee unto the Amorites, and the Hittites, and the Pezerites, and the Canaanites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. Thou shalt not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works, but thou shalt utterly overthrow them, and quite break down their images. And ye shall serve the Lord your God, and he shall bless thy bread and thy water, and I will take sickness away from midst of thee. There shall nothing cast their young, nor be barren in thy land. The number of thy days I will fulfill, and I will send my fear before thee, and I will destroy all the people to whom thou shalt come, and I will make all thine enemies turn their backs unto thee, and I will send hornets before thee, which shall drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, the Hittite from before these. And I will not drive them out from before thee in 1 year, lest the land become desolate, and the beasts of the field multiply against thee. By little and little I will drive them out from before thee, until thou be increased and inherit the land. And I will set thy boundaries from the Red Sea even unto the sea of the Philistines, and from the desert unto the river, for I will deliver the inhabitants of the land unto your hand, and thou shalt drive them out before thee. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor their gods. They shall not dwell in thy land, lest they make thee sin against me. For if thou serve their gods, it will surely be a snare unto thee. Exodus brings the Mishpath, this long, intensive block of practical civil criminal case law, to a dramatic close. The immediate context is still the smoke-shrouded base of Mount Sinai. God is wrapping his legal briefing to Moses before the grand covenant ratification ceremony. This chapter is a masterpiece in societal engineering because it blends three distinct elements: a fierce blueprint for judicial integrity and anti-corruption, a national calendar for cycles of rest and community welfare, and a thrilling prophetic map detailing the angel of the Lord who will lead them to the promised land. Here's the valuable context and theological breakdown you need for your toolbox as you read. God lays down a zero-tolerance policy against the systemic corruption that typically rotted the ancient Near Eastern legal system. He issues a rapid-fire series of ethical boundaries for witnesses, judges, and citizens. Thou shalt not raise false report. Put thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. Spreading universal gossip or conspiring to frame someone in court is blatantly banned. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. You cannot use everyone else is doing it or standard mob mentality to excuse an excuse to bend justice or pervert a legal verdict. Anti-bribery absolute. And thou shalt take no gift, for a gift blindeth the wise and purveyeth the word of the righteous. The law establishes a brilliant, balanced line regarding social status in court. Neither shalt thou countenance a poor man in his cause. You are forbidden from being biased against the poor. You are also forbidden from perverting the facts out of mere sentimental pity for the poor. Thou shalt not wrest judgment of thy poor in his cause. The wealthy and powerful cannot use their influence to strip a destitute man of his legal right. The scales must be completely blind to a social class. Only facts matter. God forces morality out of the courtroom and into everyday life with the incredible psychological test. If you're walking down a desert path and see a stray ox or a collapsed donkey belonging to a man who absolutely hates your guts, you cannot walk past and ignore it. You're legally mandated to stop what you're doing, help the bitter enemy untie his animal, and secure his property. True righteousness outranks personal grudges. The text transitions into a foundational rhythm that will govern the agricultural economics of the nation. Every 7 years, the entire nation must practice mandatory sabbatical year, the Shemitah. The farmers are completely forbidden from planting, pruning, or harvesting their fields, vineyards, or olive groves. Whatever grows naturally on its own during the 7th year belongs entirely to the poor, the destitute, and the wild animals. It is a beautiful economic model that forces the land to rest and regenerate ecologically while simultaneously creating a nationwide food bank for the marginalized. God commands that every male must travel to meet him 3 times a year for the national celebration. These feasts mapped out perfectly for their agricultural harvest cycles that are unleavened bread, commemorating the haste and midnight escape from their Egyptian slavery, the harvest/Pentecost, the summer harvest of wheat, celebrating the first fruits of their agricultural labor in the fields, the ingathering tabernacles, the autumn fruit wine harvest, commemorating how God sustained them in temporary tents during the wilderness wanderings. With the civil laws finalized, God pivots the immediate military future. He promises to deploy a supreme supernatural vanguard to lead the caravan across the Jordan River. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way and bring thee into the place which I have prepared. God drops a severe warning about this specific angel in verse 21. Be aware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. This is no ordinary created angel to possess divine prerogative to pardon or execute judgment on sin and to carry the literal name of Yahweh inside his being. This figure is historically understood as in theology as a theophany, a physical manifestation of the pre-incarnate Son of God, Jesus Christ, acting as Israel's ultimate military commander. God promises to send his terror and supernatural hornet ahead of them to paralyze the Canaanite giants. But he notes that he will not drive the pagans out in a single year, lest the land become desolate and swarming with wild beasts. He will drive them out little by little as Israel's population expands to manage the territory. However, God demands a total, uncompromising cultural boycott of the Canaanite religious ecosystem. Smash the idols. They must completely demolish their stone statues and tear down their sacred pillars. No treaties, no marriage. They are strictly forbidden from making peace treaties or intermarrying with them. God drops a haunting prophetic warning at the closing of the chapter. If you let the religious practices remain within your borders, they shall become a snare unto thee. If you try to compromise and blend my worship with their pagan depravities, it will wrap around your ankles like a trap and drag your entire society to ruin. You have officially, wow, crazy. Exodus 24, a covenant confirmed. And he said unto Moses, come up unto the Lord, thou and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship ye afar off. And Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come near, neither shall the people go up with him. And Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord, and all the judgments. And all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord hath said we will do. And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord, and rose up early in the morning, and builded an altar under the hill, and the 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings, and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto the Lord. And Moses took half of the blood and put it in the basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the book of the covenant and read it in the audience of the people, and said, all that the Lord hath saith we will do, and be obedient. And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, and said, behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord hath made with you concerning all these words. Then went up Moses and Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and they saw the God of Israel. And there was under his feet, as it were, paved works of sapphire. And they saw the God of Israel, and there was underneath his feet, as it were, paved work of sapphire stone, and as it were, the body of heaven in his clearness. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel he laid not his hand. Also they saw God, and did not eat and drink, and did eat and drink. And the Lord said unto Moses, come up to me into the mount, and there be, and I will give thee tables of stone, and law and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. And Moses rose up, and his ministers Joshua and Moses went into the mount of God. And he said unto the elders, Tarry ye here for us until we come again unto you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. And if any man have any matters to do, let him come unto them. And Moses went up into the mound, and a cloud covered the mound. And the glory of the Lord abode upon the Mount of Sinai. And the cloud covered it 6 days. And the seventh day he came unto Moses in the midst of the cloud. And the sight of the glory of the Lord was like a devouring fire on the top of the mount in the eyes of the children of Israel. And Moses went into the midst of the cloud and gat him up into the mound. And Moses was in the mound for 40 days and 40 nights. Exodus 24 is the spectacular legal and liturgical grand finale of the entire Sinai summit. Everything from chapter 19 through 23 has been leading up to this moment. The constitutional blueprints have been delivered, and the terms have been spoken, and now the contract must be legally executed. The context is a formal covenant ratification ceremony. In ancient Near Eastern culture, the covenant wasn't finalized with a digital signature or handshake. It required a physical, bloody, and high-stakes legal ritual to seal the bond. This chapter splits into two mind-blowing phases: a raw, sacrificial blood ritual at the base of the mountain, followed by an immediate, elite delegation of leaders climbing straight up into heavens to eat a covenant meal directly before the feet of God. Moses climbs down into the dark clouds, rehearsing all the practical civil codes to the millions of refugees. For a second time, the camp roars back with an absolute unanimous consent. All the words which the Lord hath said, we will do. Moses stays up all night writing every single law down onto a scroll, creating the books of the covenant. At sunrise, Moses builds a massive stone altar at the foot of Sinai, flanked by 12 stone pillars representing 12 individual tribes of Israel. He commissions young men to slaughter young bulls as peace offerings. Moses executes a highly dramatic 2-part blood application that seals the legal contract. Moses drains the bull blood into large bowls. He takes exactly 1/2 of the blood and throws it directly onto the stone altar. This binds God to the terms of the contract. Moses reads the book of the covenant out loud to the crowd one last time. The people swear the oath of loyalty. Then Moses takes the remaining half of blood, dips hyssop branches into it, and aggressively sprinkles it over the heads of the people. Moses shouts out a binding legal formula in verse 8. Behold the blood of the covenant, which the Lord hath made you concerning all these words. This was an ancient oath of self-imprecation. By letting the wet bull blood splatter over the clothes and skin, the people were physically acting in ultimate penalty of treason. The people were physically acting out the ultimate penalty of treason. If we break our word to Yahweh, our own blood will be spilled onto the dirt, just like these bulls. With the blood applied, the barrier shifts. The barrier of fear shifts. God invites an elite 74-man delegation, Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the foundational elders of Israel, to cross the death perimeter and march straight up into the rocky slopes of the mountain. Verse 10 drops one of the most stunning, ethereal visual descriptions in all of the scripture. And they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet, as it were paved of sapphire stone, and as it were the body of heaven in his clearness. They look up and gaze upon the manifest presence of God. Beneath his feet is glowing translucent platform made of deep electrical blue sapphire, as clear and brilliant as the atmosphere of the sky itself. The text notes a beautiful piece of divine hospitality in verse 11. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel he laid not his hand. Also they saw God and did eat and drink. In chapter 19, the raw holiness of God threatens to violently break forth and consume anyone who crossed the line. But now, because the covenant has been ratified by blood of the substitute, the leader can sit down in perfect safety right in front of the king's throne to eat and drink their sacrificial steak meal. In ancient times, eating a meal together was the ultimate sign of peace, trust, and permanent friendship. The banquet wraps, and God calls Moses even higher up into the mountain, leaving Aaron and Hur down below to manage the daily courtroom disputes of the camp. Joshua acts as Moses' personal armor bearer, marching with him up to a certain high altitude before Moses goes solo into the thickest cloud layer. 6 consecutive days, the cloud covers the mountain. The millions of Israelites watching from their tents in the valley below, the presence of the Lord on the peaks look like a devouring fire on top of the mound. On the 7th day, God calls Moses out from the middle of the fire. Moses vanishes deep inside the burning smoke for 40 days and 40 nights without food or water. The blood of the new covenant. This chapter is a direct blueprint for the ultimate climax in the New Testament at the Last Supper. Jesus Christ takes a cup of wine, passes it to his disciples, and consciously quotes Moses' exact legal formula from Exodus 24:8, declaring, "This is my blood. This is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many." Moses uses the blood of the bulls to seal a temporal national law on stone tablets. Jesus uses his own blood to seal an eternal global covenant that writes the law directly onto human hearts, allowing humanity to permanently sit at God's king's table in peace. Up to chapter 24, the story has been active, gritty, and fast-paced, but now that the contract is sealed, Moses is going to spend the next 40 days receiving the blueprint microspecs for a mobile royal tent, the tabernacle. God's ultimate goal was never to show off on top of a distant mountain. He wants to pack up his sapphire glory, move down into the valley, and live right in the middle of their camp. Whoa. Crazy. Exodus 25. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they bring me an offering. Of every man that giveth it willingly with his heart, ye shall take my offering. And this is the offering which ye shall take of them: gold and silver and brass and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair and ram's skin dried red and badger skin and shittim wood and oil for the light, spices of anointing oil, and for sweet incense, onyx stones, and stones to be set in the ephod and in the breastplates. And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them, according to all that so thee after the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all the instruments thereof, even so shall ye make it. And they shall make an ark of shittim wood, 2 cubits and half shall be the length thereof, and 1.5 cubits the breadth of thereof, and 1.5 cubits the height thereof. And thou shalt lay over it with pure gold. Within and without shalt thou overlay it with shall make upon a crown of gold round about. And thou shalt cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in the 4 corners thereof. And 2 rings shall be in the one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side of it. And thou shalt make staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put the staves into the rings by the sides of the ark, and that ark may be borne with them. The staves shall be in the rings of the ark, they shall not be taken from it. Thou shalt put into the ark the testimony which I shall give thee, and thou shalt make a mercy seat of pure gold. 2.5 cubits shall be the length thereof, and 1.5 cubits the breadth thereof. And thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold, of beaten work shalt thou make it, and in 2 ends of the mercy seat, and make 1 cherubim on one side, and the other cherubim on the other end. Even of the mercy seat shall ye make the cherubims on the 2 ends thereof. And the cherubim shall stretch forth their wings on high coverings. The mercy seat with their wings, their faces shall look one to another. Towards the mercy seat shall the faces of the cherubims be. And thou shalt put the mercy seat above upon the ark, and in the ark thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee. And there I will meet thee, I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubims which are upon the ark of the testimony, of all the things which I give thee in commandment unto the children of Israel. Thou shalt make a table of shittim wood, 2 cubits shall be the length thereof, and 1 cubit the breadth thereof, and 1.5 cubits the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, and make it there a crown of gold round about. And thou shalt make it unto a border of an hand breadth around about. And thou shalt make it a golden crown of border there round about. And thou shalt make of it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings of 4 corner in the 4 corners that are on the 4 feet thereof. Over against the border shall the rings be for places of staves to bear the table. And thou shalt make the staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold, that the table may be borne with them. And thou shalt make the dishes thereof, and the spoons thereof, and the coverings thereof, and the bowls thereof, to cover withal of pure gold shalt thou make them. And thou shalt set them upon the table shewbread for me alway. And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold, of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knops, and his flowers shall be of the same. And 6 branches shall come out of the sides of it, 3 branches of the candlestick out of the one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side. 3 bowls made like unto almonds, with a knop and a flower in one branch, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch, with a knop and the flower. So in the 6 branches that come out of the candlestick. And in the candlestick shall be 4 bowls made like unto almonds, and with their knops and their flowers. And there shall be a knop under the 2 branches of the same, and the knot under the two branches of the same, and the knot under the two branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that proceed out of the candlestick. Their knops and their branches shall be of the same, and it shall be one beaten work of pure gold. And thou shalt make it 7 lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it. And the tongs thereof and the snuff dishes thereof shall be of pure gold, and of a talent of pure gold shall he make it with all the vessels. And look that thou make them after their pattern, which was shown thee in the mount. That was kind of painful. Exodus 25 opens a massive new structural division in the book. Up to this point, the narrative has been high octane and fast paced, filled with plagues, split oceans, desert battles, and roaring fire on top of a mountain. Now Moses has vanished deep into the devouring fire of the peak of Sinai, where he will spend 40 days and 40 nights. God is not giving him a legal brief this time. He's handing him a hyper-specific, micro-detailed architectural blueprint for a mobile royal tent, the tabernacle, meaning divine dwelling place. The theological core of this entire blueprint is dropped at the beginning in verse 8. And let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. God's ultimate goal was never to stay isolated on top of a terrifying smoke mountain where people face a death penalty just for touching the rocks. He wanted to pack up his heavenly sapphire glory, step down into the dirt of the valley, and pitch his tent right in the dead center of the human camp. God tells Moses that the raw materials for his grand sanctuary cannot be extorted through heavy taxes or forced quotas. Every single item must be given as voluntarily open-hearted donations. Of every man that giveth it willingly with his heart, ye shall take my offering. The crowd uses the massive imperial plunder they walked out of Egypt in chapter 12 to fund the project. Precious metals, gold, silver, and brass, luxury textiles of blue, purple, and scarlet yarns, alongside fine Egyptian linen and goat hair, exotic leathers, including ram skins dyed red, and durable badger and porpoise skins. Shittim wood or acacia wood, a dense, highly durable, non-rot resistant desert timber, aromatic spices, anointing oils, and precious gems. God starts the architectural drafting from the inside out. He doesn't build the outer walls first. He begins with an absolute focal point of the entire compound, the innermost chamber known as the Holy of Holies, the very first item drafted in the Ark of the Covenant. The chest, a rectangular box made of acacia wood measuring 3.75 feet by 2.5 feet, or 2.25 feet wide and high. It is completely plated in pure gold inside and out, finished with a decorative crown molding of gold. 4 gold rings are fastened to its feet, housing 2 heavy gold-plated acacia poles. The poles are never to be extracted from the rings. The ark must always be carried, never touched directly by human hands. Inside the chest, Moses places the testimony, the 2 stone tablets of the 10 Commandments. Resting directly on top of the ark is a separate, heavy lid made of solid, pure gold called the mercy seat. Beaten out of the same single block of solid gold are two massive cherubim, angelic beings of high spiritual rank. They stand facing each other, looking down reverently at the lid, with their massive wings arched forward to completely blanket the top of the chest. God declares in verse 22, there I will meet with thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between two cherubims which are upon the ark of the testimony. The ark was the literal footstool of God's invisible throne on earth. Beneath the mercy seat lay the law, which constantly demanded justice and judgment for human failure. Excuse me. But once a year, on the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, the high priest would sprinkle sacrificial blood directly on the mercy seat. When the presence of God looked down between the wings of the cherubim, he did not see the broken law convicting the people. He saw the blood of an innocent substitute covering their failures, turning the throne of raw judgment into a seat of pure mercy. Moving out of the innermost chamber into the main room, the holy place, God details a specialized piece of royal furniture, the table of showbread. Built out of acacia wood and plated in pure gold, this table housed all of the golden dishes, spoons, covers, and bowls used for sacred drink offerings. Placed on this table at all times were exactly 12 loaves of unleavened bread, representing 12 individual tribes of Israel. The Hebrew term for showbread is lechem hapanim, which literally translates to the bread of the face, or the bread of the presence. It was a vivid, weekly visual declaration that the 12 tribes were permanently sitting at the God's table in a perfect covenant fellowship, sustained by the very face and presence of God. The final item in the chapter is a stunning menorah, a magnificent 7-branched lampstand hammered out of a single continuously talent of pure gold, roughly 75 to 100 pounds of solid gold. The design is highly organic and botanical. The central shaft and its 6 extending branches are modeled after the almond tree, meticulously decorated with gold bowls shaped an opened almond blossom, knobs, and flowers. The tabernacle's interior was wrapped in 4 heavy layers of thick textiles, leaving it in a pitch black darkness. The menorah was the sole blazing light source inside the holy place, the burning pure olive oil 24/7. The menorah is an explicit structural callback to the tree of life from the Garden of Eden. When humanity sinned, they were exiled from the tree of life and blocked by the cherubim with flaming swords. Now inside the tabernacle, surrounded by woven cherubim, the golden, light-bearing tree of life is symbolically restored to the center of human access through the sanctuary of God. Wow. Exodus 26. Moreover, thou shalt make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen, and blue, and purple, and scarlet. With cherubims of cunning work shalt thou make them. The length of one curtain shall be 28 cubits, and the breadth of one curtain 4 cubits, and every one of the curtains shall have one measure. The 5 curtains shall be coupled together one to another, and the other 5 curtains shall be coupled one to another. And thou shalt make loops of blue upon the edge of of one curtain from the selvage in the coupling. And likewise shalt thou make in an uttermost edge of another curtain in the coupling of the second. 50 loops shalt thou make in one curtain, and 50 loops shalt thou make in the edge of the curtain that is in the coupling of the second, that the loops may take hold one of another. And thou shalt make 50 taches of gold, and couple the curtains together with their taches, and it shall be one tabernacle. And thou shalt make curtains of goat hair to be a covering upon the tabernacle. 11 curtains shalt thou make. The length of one curtain shall be 30 cubits. I'm over reading about the length of curtains, man. And the length of the curtain shall be 30 cubits, and the breadth of one curtain 4 cubits, and the 11 curtains shall be all of one measure. And thou shalt couple 5 curtains by themselves, and 6 curtains by themselves, and thou shalt double the 6 curtains in their forefront of the tabernacle. Thou shalt make 50 loops on the edge of one curtain that is outmost in the coupling, and 50 loops in the edge of the curtain which couple second. And thou shalt make 50 taches of brass, and put the taches into the loops, and couple the tents together, that it may be one. And the remnant that remaineth of the curtains of the tent, and half the curtains that remaineth, shall hang over the backside of the tabernacle. And the cubit on the other side, and the cubit on the other side of that which remaineth in the length of the curtains of the tent, it shall hang over the sides of the tabernacle. And this side and on that side to cover it. And thou shalt make the covering for the tent of ram skin dyed red, and the covering above of badger skins. And thou shalt make boards of the tabernacle of shittim wood standing up. 10 cubits shall be the length of the board, and a cubit and a half shall be the breadth of one board. 2 tenons shall there be in one board, set in order one against another. Thou shalt thou make for all boards of the tabernacle, and thou shalt make the boards of the tabernacle 20 boards on the south side southward. And thou shalt make 40 sockets of silver under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under one board for his 2 tenons, and 2 sockets on another board for his 2 tenons. And for the second side of the tabernacle, on the north side, there shall be 20 boards, and there 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 sockets under another board. And for the sides of the tabernacle westward, thou shalt make 6 boards, and 2 boards shall make the corners of the tabernacle in 2 sides, and they shall be coupled together beneath, and they shall be coupled together above, and the head of it onto one ring. Thus shall it be for them both. They shall be for 2 corners, and they shall be 8 boards, and they shall and their sockets silver, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 sockets under another board. And thou shalt make bars of shittim wood, 5 for the boards on the one side of the tabernacle, and 5 for the boards on the other side of the tabernacle. And the 5 bars of the boards on the side of the tabernacle for the 2 sides westward, and the middle bar in the midst of the boards shall reach from end to end. And thou shalt overlay the boards with gold, and make their rings of gold for the places of the bars. And thou shalt overlay the bars with gold, and thou shalt rear up the tabernacle according to the fashion thereof which was shown thee in the mount. And thou shalt make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen cunning work, with cherubims shall it be made. And thou shalt hang it upon 4 pillars of shittim wood overlaid with gold. Their hooks shall be of gold upon the 4 sockets of silver, and thou shalt hang the veil under the taches. And thou mayest bring in hither within the veil of the ark of the testimony, and the veil shall divide unto you between the holy place and the most holy place. And thou shalt put mercy seat upon the ark of the testimony in the most holy place. And thou shalt set the table without the veil, and the candlestick over against the table on the side of the tabernacle towards the south. And thou shalt put the table on the north side. And thou shalt make a hanging for the door of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen wrought with needlework. And thou shalt make for the hanging of 5 pillars of shittim wood and overlay them with gold. And their hooks shall be of gold, and thou shalt cast 5 sockets of brass for them. All right. Some in-depth instructions for the tabernacle. Exodus moves the architectural. Hold on. Exodus moves the architectural briefing on Mount Sinai from the furniture inside the tent to the literal structural shell of the tabernacle itself. The immediate context is a masterclass in portable engineering. The entire building has to be an absolute paradox. It must look like a solid, majestic, stone-carved palace fit for the cosmic king. Yet it must be 100% mobile, capable of being completely disassembled and slung onto the shoulder of the Levites and marched across miles of rugged desert at a second's notice. In this chapter, God drafts the microspecs for building the building's 3 primary components: the multi-layered textile roof and walls, the massive wooden frame skeleton, and the hypercritical inner veil that cuts the entire tent cleanly into 2 distinct zones of holiness. The tabernacle is essentially a modular tent measuring roughly 45 feet long, 15 feet wide, and 15 feet high. To insulate this space against harsh whipping desert winds and blinding sun, God designates a heavy 4-layered canopy system. To keep these massive, heavy textile layers from collapsing under the heap of fabric, God designs an ingenious wooden framework. He orders the construction of 48 individual vertical frame panels made of dense, rot-resistant acacia wood, each standing 15 feet high and 2.5 feet wide. Crucially, every single wooden board is completely overlaid in thick, pure gold. At the base of each golden panel are 2 protruding tendon pegs, which slot perfectly into massive, heavy sockets of solid silver. The structural grand finale of this chapter is a creation of a veil woven out of the same high-end blue, purple, and scarlet linen and packed with embroidered guarding cherubim. This heavy curtain is hung on 4 gold-plated acacia pillars resting on 4 silver sockets. Moses is commanded to hang the veil directly beneath the roof clasps, splitting the interior of the tent into a 2-to-1 ratio. The holy place, the outer 30-foot room housing the golden lampstand, menorah, and the table of showbread. Regularly, priests enter here daily to perform duties. And then the Holy of Holies, the innermost 15-foot perfect cube housing only the Ark of the Covenant. It is pitch black, silent, and completely off limits. Wow. The veil was a massive visual stop sign. It broadcasted a sobering theological message to a newly redeemed nation. Yes, God lives in your camp now, but you cannot casually saunter into his presence. The heavy fabric and guarding angels served as a constant reminder that human sin creates a structural, lethal separation between humanity and raw holiness of God. Only the high priestess could cross this line, and only once a year on the Day of Atonement, covered in sacrificial blood. In biblical theology, this specific curtain was the exact legal anchor for the climax of the New Testament Gospels. The moment Jesus Christ cried out and died on the cross as the ultimate sacrificial substitute, the massive thick temple veil in Jerusalem was violently ripped in half from top to bottom. Matthew 27:51. The book of Hebrews 10 through 20 explains that Jesus' physical body was the true veil. By tearing it open through death, the separation was permanently deleted, allowing any human direct, bold access into the innermost sapphire presence of the Father without needing human priests or stone structures ever again. Crazy. All right, we got to get through these instructions, man. Exodus 27. And thou shalt make an altar of shittim wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits broad. The altar shall be 4 square, and in the height thereof shall be 3 cubits. And thou shalt make the horns of it up upon the 4 corners thereof. His horns shall be of the same, and thou shalt overlay it with brass. And thou shalt make his pans to receive his ashes, and his shovels, and his basins, and his flesh hooks, and his fire spans, and all the vessels thereof thou shalt make of brass. And thou shalt make for it a grate of network of brass, and upon the net shalt thou make 4 brazen rings in the 4 corners thereof. And thou shalt put it under the compass of the altar beneath, that the net may be even to the midst of the altar. And thou shalt make staves for the altar, staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with brass. And the staves shall be put into the rings, and the staves shall be upon the 2 sides of the altar to bear it. Hollowed with the boards shalt thou make it, as it shown thee in the mount, and so shall they make it. And thou shalt make it the court of the tabernacle. For the south side southward there shall be hangings for the court of fine twined linen, and 100 cubits long for one side, and the 20 pillars thereof, and their 20 sockets shall be of brass, and the hooks of the pillars and their fillets shall be of silver. And likewise for the north side in length there shall be hangings of 100 cubits long, and his 20 pillars, and there shall be 20 sockets of brass, and the hooks of the pillars and their fillets of silver. And for the breadth of the court on the west side shall there be hangings of 50 cubits, their pillars 10, and their sockets 10, and the breadth of the court on the east side eastward shall be 50 cubits, and hanging on the other side of the gate shall be 15 cubits, their pillars 3, and their sockets 3, and the other side shall be hanging 15 cubits, and their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. And for the gates of the courts shall there be a hanging of 20 cubits of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen, wrought with needlework, and their pillars shall be 4, and their sockets 4. All the pillars shall be round about the court, shall be fillet with silver, and their hooks shall be of silver, and their sockets of brass. The length of the court shall be 100 cubits, and the breadth 50 everywhere, and the height 5 cubits of fine twined linen, and their sockets of brass. All the vessels of the tabernacle in all the service thereof, and all the pins thereof, and all the pins of the court shall be of brass. And thou shalt command the children of Israel that they bring thee pure oil, olive beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn always in the tabernacle of the congregation without the veil, which is before the testimony. Aaron and his sons shall order it from evening to morning before the Lord. It shall be a statute forever unto their generations on behalf of the children of Israel. Exodus 27 moves the architectural drafting on Mount Sinai out of the intimate golden interior of the tent and steps into the bright open air of the outer courtyard. The immediate context to this macro design of sacred boundary lines up to this point, we have seen the hyper-holy interior furniture, the ark, the menorah, and the table, and the golden structural walls. Now God designs the public interface of the tabernacle, the zone where the common Israelite citizens bring their animal sacrifices to deal with their sin. In this chapter, God briefs Moses on 3 critical components: the massive, rugged bronze altar of burnt offerings, the white linen courtyard perimeter fence, and the operational policy of the for the oil of the lampstands. The very first item greeting a person walking into the tabernacle, complex with a massive, imposing square fire pit, the altar of burnt offering. Unlike the delicate gold-plated furniture hidden in the core, the hollow box made of durable acacia wood, measuring roughly 7.5 feet wide, 7.5 feet long, 4.5 feet high. The armor, the entire wooden structure, is completely overlaid with thick, heavy brass. It features heavy bronze grating slotted halfway down into a box to catch hot coals. The horns, hammered out of 4 upper corners of 4 prominent upward pointing horns of bronze. The tools, the operational accessories to the ash pans, shovel basins, meat hooks, and fire pans are forged out of solid bronze. In biblical typology, metals carry a deep symbolic weight. Inside the tent, gold represents pure, untarnished royalty of heaven. Outside the tent, bronze represents divine judgment against sin. It's metal that can withstand the intense direct heat of sacrificial flames without melting. The horns of the altar serve 2 practical and spiritual functions: securing the sacrifice. The massive animals brought for slaughter were physically tied down to these horns. The grip asylum. In ancient Near Eastern culture, if a man committed accidental crime, he could sprint into the courtyard, grab hold of the horns of the altar and plead mercy and legal protection from retaliatory blood feuds. The altar was a loud visual sermon. You cannot access the gold presence of the king inside the tent until your sin is first dealt with by fire and blood at the bronze altar outside. To separate this sacred ground from the common, everyday campsite of millions of refugees, God designed a massive rectangular perimeter fence measuring roughly 150 feet long by 75 feet wide. The fence is composed of hanging curtains made of high-end, fine twined Egyptian linen. The structural posts, these white curtains are hung on 60 individual pillars, resting securely in 60 heavy bronze sockets. The pillars are capped with silver hooks and silver bands. The east gate, in the dead center of the eastern wall, is a wide 30-foot gate of entry. The curtains for this gate stand out, breaching the exact colors of the inner veil. When the millions of Israelites looked toward the center of their camp, they saw a dazzling, crisp wall of pure white linen glinting in the sun. White linen in Scripture represents absolute moral purity and righteousness. The fence shouted, "God is clean, you are unclean." There's only one wide, colorful gate on the east side to cross this boundary line. The chapter wraps up with an immediate operational decree handed to the citizens. God commands that the people must bring pure oil, olive beaten, for the light to cause the 7 lamps of the menorah inside the holy place to burn continuously. Aaron and his sons are mandated to dress, clean, and refill these lamps every evening and morning, ensuring that light never cuts out from evening until dawn. The light of the tabernacle was not fueled by natural daylight or magic. It was sustained by the daily rhythmic physical contributions of the common people, combined with the relentless maintenance of the priesthood. Wow. So the single entry gate, Jesus explicitly claims this architectural role in John 10:9, declaring, "I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved." Just as there was only one colorful entrance through the white linen fence of Sinai, scriptures present a single entry point into the fellowship of God. Outside the altar, Jesus did not die inside the majestic temple building. He was marched outside the city gates of Jerusalem to be executed on a rugged wooden cross at Golgotha. The cross is the ultimate bronze altar of human history, where fiery judgment that humanity deserved was fully absorbed by the innocent Lamb of God. Whoa. All right, I'm going to call it there.